comes to us from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, where he is professor of food science in the Department of Food Science there. He received his Bachelor of Science degree at the Bangalore, India in Agricultural Sciences. He also completed a master's and PhD at the University of Idaho in Moscow, a bacteriology master's degree, and a PhD in microbiology. He has a wide variety of different experiences. He's traveled all over the world. He has done a number of things. He was a Jefferson Scholar at the State Department, and his research in the area of redox biology, functional foods, and other areas as it relates to food security is world-renowned. So with that, I want to turn the floor over to Dr. Shetty, who will give his presentation on his vision for the Global Institute of Food Sciences here at North Dakota State University. Please help me welcome Dr. Shetty.
Thank you, Dr. Myers, for the warm welcome. It's indeed very delighted to be here, very happy to be here. I had come here not so cold November as well, but a lot of it feels like my Idaho days, which is 6 years. I was 6 years in Idaho, and so when I talk to people, it feels like that. What I'm going to present to you is, I have only 33 slides, so I won't bore you too much. But what I have is a three-part presentation. And so in this, I like to articulate my vision in the following way. First 2 slides, I'll just present to you, give you an overarching perspective on a more deeper intellectual level, these globalization issues, and particularly at 2 levels. One is, what is the food systems that we have today? Most of it is after the last ice age. And then how it settled from river valley civilizations to a very important event 500 years ago that then had implications for global economic, the economic systems we see today. And then from that foundation, I will move towards science, considering these globalization issues, how in an innovation economy of today, which is not anymore a resource-based, we're not fighting only for resources, but it's all driven by the brain. So in this global innovation economy, education and entrepreneurship, innovation-driven entrepreneurship is very important. And this is driven by, will be driven by youth demographic, education-inclined youth demographic. Where are the young people of the world? And that's going to driven. So this life science innovation platform is going to be the innovation platform of the century, because we have to develop a sustainable economic system which is founded on principles of sustainability, from the ecosystem to food system, health, across the board. And therefore, what is this innovation platform? So with that overview of the innovation platform, I will then present to you my vision for Global Institute of Food Science, which would be my last 20 slides. So if I, usually I have I have my seminar, but I normally don't go by I don't prepare just from the overhead. So sometimes if I get too excited, pardon me. And sometimes it's positive, sometimes my students think I go off on tangents, but I'll try not to go off on tangents. Okay, so let's see where we are. I teach a world food course. I present this to my students, but in a different way. Most of the food system that we have today, first critical important event is post-ice age. And this post-ice age, a lot of the settling into communities, into Neolithic communities, and then the early river valley civilization, many of the foods we eat today, rice and wheat, they really came from the early foundations of organized agriculture in the Chinese, Indus, Mesopotamia. This is where all our Abrahamic faiths came from. This is where all our Dharmic faiths came from. And then the Nile Valley. And of course, we are 20,000 or plus years ago, we have the migrants who came here. They also had their food system, corn, turkey. There are quite a few. Okay? So this was a very important part of a first settling of what we eat today. So, and then when Vavilov, the brilliant Russian botanist, he then put the centers of origin of this settling of these domesticated parts. So that gives us the foundation of where our food system and where we need to go back if we have to bring them back into more sustainable platform. Okay? And of course, each of us have taken that diversity and used it to our own needs. And of course, in the modern times, we have built everything around corn or soybean. That's another matter. But this diversity is very important. So this understanding of our early civilization, especially the early organized civilizations and their domestication, whether it's from paleontological or other results, are very important and very important in a deeper intellectual understanding of our food system. A second, very more important, is the second slide. I won't bore you with my whole lecture of what I normally take, or at least each slide is one lecture. But here what I like to present is two very important things I want to bring here. One is a very important event happened 500 years ago. There was after the fall of Rome, there was a dark ages in Europe from 5th century to about 14th century. Just then after the Renaissance came on. But before, during that period, Asian civilizations were flourishing very well. From the 3rd century to about the 11th century, it was the time of India. All the Indian civilization was as far as Bali. And then from around the 9th to about the 14th, it was a Chinese civilization. But one important event happened. This tiny little country, Portugal, they heard about, from the Silk Route, they heard about the wonderful silks and trade and spices of the East that the Turkish merchants bought. And as that spread around, and Marco Polo, and there were many other events along the Silk Route, they said, we need to find this. So a lot of the empires here were funding around 14th century, funding shipbuilding and activities to go find the Indies or the country in the East. Because at that period of time, this was flourishing, both India and China. Close to 70% of the world economy was in the what we call the monsoon route. Why this was so flourishing is from here, this part of Arabia, right up to here, they could traverse in 7 days in one monsoon season and 7 days in the other side. So this shipbuilding and wealth was amazingly well established here. And so when this Portuguese discovered the land of the Indies around, it changed the world forever. So everything that we know why we are here is all from that event. What they then discovered is the riches of the East in all its splendor. And so Vasco da Gama, you've heard of Vasco da Gama, he was the one. So that led to Columbus, his first trip, and then his second trip. Of course, he came up here, and then third trip. And then it let loose, the Dutch followed, then eventually the big dogs were the English. And there were many other events, but we won't talk about that. There's no time for that. So the Portuguese had a very remarkable, important impact. So they discovered, but more importantly, they landed here in Brazil. So today, because of the Portuguese, 60% of the crops and foods we eat is from the Americas. And 40% is from the old world, Africa into Europe. So that's the foundation of our food system. And that was also foundation of what the economic system developed post-Renaissance Europe, and as colonialism established. And then you can go on from the tea trade to the opium wars to the sugar trade to the slavery, all had roots in that, so you can dig deeper into that. But beyond digging deeper into those issues, it set into motion the commodities that we fought over. First, the Dutch, they secretly ran their trade here, and the Portuguese had many, and then the English gave them these. So essentially, Europe divided up the world, and as that moved forward, you had the makings of the modern economy, which was around resources. So that's very good. That went on. So this part of the world, which had 50–60% of the world economy, by the time in 1725, even at the height of the first European consolidation of the global resources, this part of the world, India, China, still had 50% of the world GDP. And it collapsed. By Second World War, by the time the resource fights happened, and final big resource fight was Second World War. At the end of Second World War, they had 5% of the global GDP. And of course, by then, this new great country emerged, out of the its both dark and good side. And from 19th century, 1900 to now, it became the top innovator and everything else. But what is important, and what's important in the food system context, from 40s as new innovations emerged, as the strength of the American university and the rest of the world universities and innovation expanded, this led to post-60s innovation economy. Okay, so that's what's driving the world today. So it's no more just about resources, because even if oil prices drop, it doesn't shake up the world that much. If some commodities go up and down, it doesn't shake up things so much as it used to do before. Now it's more about new innovation. So this new innovation is driven by two: education and entrepreneurship. Okay, so today's world is from this. So from that platform, we are moving into a new global economy where and more faster after the Lehman collapse of 2008, by conservative estimates, by 2025, 60% of the global economy will be back in Asia. But the beauty of it is it's a bigger plate. So a new country that was formed, which is very young, can be a very important player because of our strength in immigration, strength in higher education, which is what NDSU is, and therefore a lot of strength. So in this global economy and in this global innovation economy, where is our role? Where is NDSU's role? So that's a very important part of our consideration and have to think about it. So with that hopefully quick background, I'll go into next 10 slides of what is this innovation economy in life sciences, because that's what food science and food security is about, is within the confines of the life science innovation that's going to be part of the larger innovation of the century, that's going to give a sustainable world, a sustainable economic development, sustainable ecology, right? And number two, education-linked demographics. Because if you go back quickly, I didn't mean to go back, if you see the demographics of the world, there's many places there's a collapse of population. While last century was the explosion of population, this century is going to be an implosion of population. You already have Russia, whose population is going to drop by 30 million. Japan, by next 30 years, is going from 131 million to about 105 million. The average age in China is all because of the one-child policy and preference for male is average age is 36. And then US, because of our immigration, we are holding up well. Latin America is very young. And then Europe, average age is about 38, particularly the Western EU countries. And then Africa is young. India is very young. Average age is 27. So these are the pools where young youth are going to come from in a population that's going to go from 7 billion today to 9 billion by 2050 and saturate. So in this, education-linked youth demographic is key to population. In a century, the population is going to implode, right? And number two, innovations in life sciences are going to drive this. So as we look at this, innovations in life science, for the first time, food, health, and wellness issues become very important. Previously, we worried about infectious diseases, which is still important. But today, in the next 30 years, most of us are going to die from non-communicable chronic diseases. Okay, why? Because since 2001, the food system that we have is about, in a population of 1.7 billion, 1.4, 1.5 billion of us have excess calories. And we still have 1 billion who are undernourished and the rest of us in the middle. And this 1.5 billion are going to go even further. And so if you see the next big killers today or in the next 20, 30 years, it's diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cardio-obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, liver health, and other non-communicable diseases. So they are all health linked issues with food. Food and health issues are well interconnected. So what we grow, how we grow needs to change. How we process needs to change. Has to critically integrate wellness into it. So that's a very important platform. Therefore, as these technological evolutions in information technology, the environmental consequences, the fight over fresh water, that's very much required for everything we do, and the environmental consequences, energy diversification, going away from carbon, as these address, they are all founded on a very system. It needs a systems approach. We need a more interdisciplinary systems approach because solutions for them are commonly linked. How much energy diversity we get from bioenergy has effect on the food security or just overall agricultural systems. So all these issues are interconnected, and therefore the bigger issues of life science platforms and bigger issues are connected. So we need a much more systems integrated approach driven strongly from the ecosystem platform as well as from the other side, from the molecular platform. Both need to come because eco-evolutionary pressures shape the plasticity of biological systems. So therefore, if you look at diabetes, it's an environmental disease. We bought onto that by the change in our environment. And there are many examples of that. And therefore, as we look at this platform, innovations in life science will be key, and it will be linked to which society is going to educate their population well, and how is that going to drive sustainable entrepreneurship for economic development. So this is very key. So with that in mind, we need a more systems approach. We need to look at how cellular system work and interaction. I have no time to go into this. What we need is a more systems approach to problem solving. What it is, I'll tell you in a minute. And in systems approach, what we need to know is understand the biological interface and biological systems of the planet and find critical control points. What I mean by that is our biology is limited within certain rules, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, right? So they function within that. So to function within that, there's some control points. So control points to keep the balance. So if we can't find the control points that don't allow them to implode, right, then we can design based on those control points or maintain systems based on control points or use systems based on control points. Okay? So control points as the basis of understanding systems, as the basis of understanding biology is going to drive life sciences. So the next century is going to be about systems biology based innovations. Okay, so it's life science innovations, more so systems biology based innovations with the strong force of both ecosystem and also molecular basis coming together to solve a problem. So what is systems biology? This is brilliantly done. A good example of this is an institute that's just started by the Japanese government in Okinawa. It has 4 disciplines, but one critical discipline is systems biology. And in system biology, it's no more about individual genes or individual enzymes. They are important to study, or their robustness, how they work in high temperature, low temperature. But how are these individual interactions really controlled at the whole system level? What are these control points? And when we understand those control points, it could be a key regulator genes. It could be oxygen functional around the mitochondria like I presented this morning. So therefore, finding these control points that shape the biological system is key. And that's going to be that's going to drive our design. And therefore, we have a stronger concept link, hypothesis-driven research as a result. So we have a better sense of what our control point is. We're just not going to wildly search for things. So we're going to see what are these rules that shape us. So it's not guesswork. We have a better platform for this. So this systems biology approach is going to be the platform for life science advances. Okay? So as we look at this in my own research, which will be, I call this a Redox Biology platform. So I look at the antioxidant countermeasures in plant systems as they adapt in their for their reproductive and environmental adaptation function. And what we are finding from many years of work is many of these oxygen countermeasure measures that plants use for whatever adaptations they want in their reproductive and adaptive state, many of these ingredients are what we want for our food to fight our oxygen malfunction diseases. Because all this major non-communicable disease from excess calories are all oxygen breakdown diseases. Because we only think about what we eat, but we don't think about what we breathe. Ultimately, what we eat and what we breathe is where the energy is pulled out, and oxygen is the key molecule. So oxygen is, as I told this morning, is a paradox. One hand, the 6 electrons on the outer shell is so critical for us to make the water and run the electron chain and get energy, but at the same time, it can go out of whack very quickly. So this out of whack situation with high calories, environmental pollution, is a basis of many cellular breakdowns, including our health. So most of the drug designs are based on after the fact, when the system is broken down. And that's where a lot of the pharmaceutical designs are. So we need a food that we eat every day, which is we eat as a profile to constantly counterbalance that oxygen malfunction that emerges. And in addition, also try to work at compounds that can modulate other structure function parts of the disease, for example, digestive process, or anything that can go array in liver health or any other health. So food can be an important vehicle that can be fed in, but we need a new model. We can't borrow the pharma model, because pharma is single drug approaches. Whereas here we eat whole profile. So how do you design whole profile to fight chronic diseases that are accumulating every day? So we need a whole different approach, and this approach is going to be understood. How are these profile controlled from a control point of view? And one control point is oxygen. We can't get away from oxygen on this planet, right? So this oxygen-based control point is a very important point. As I apply, it's important for agriculture and food, health, industrial, environmental, in many of these areas. I don't have time to go into this, but I'll give you some examples improving for photosynthesis and respiratory quotient, C3, C4 plants. How are they managing? What is the consequence in the oxygen function? Pest, low chemical environment production. For example, US, interestingly, in the last 10 years, our yields have gone up. Our chemical inputs into our agriculture has dropped because of integrated pest management. Of course, it's not defined by control points. By design, we worked through this, and that's a remarkable breakthrough. And you can see the consequence of it. All the chemical companies are slowly disappearing, right? Syngenta now, from 3 companies, it's 1 company, right? So you can see the impact at the at the industry level. Pest and pathogen, more natural approaches are emerging. Animal food systems, especially carbon. How much of carbon do we feed from photosynthesis to make one kilogram of beef, or 1 kilogram of pork or chicken? Which would be more efficient? Right? So we have to ask these hard questions. Zoonotic infections, bird flu or any other, very important. Stress and tolerances. And then food, functional food, animal food bioactives from plants, animals. Food safety is very important. So the future of food systems is 2 issues: food for health, food safety. We have to have these 2 very closely working together. And NDOC has a very good food safety education platform, which I think is very exciting. Food preservation, we can't always eat naturally. We have a big population to feed. So food processing is absolutely necessary. So still, how do we have healthy food within that, using some of these control point logic? Post-harvest management, waste remediation. There's a whole new program. Cooks are being trained as food scientists. So they actually get $100,000 starting salary, because they have bring 2 very unique expertise, and all these big companies, they're in high demand. So they go to these 2-year colleges, Johnson and Wales, Culinary, or New York, and they come to UMass for another 2 years. And they're very good. So there's interfaces of different disciplines that are emerging: dairy, alcohol. I don't have time for this. And likewise, there are bio-based health strategies, which we can get from small molecules in plant systems, phenylpropanoids. So drug design still will have its relevance, but we can also get it from natural sources, complex lipids, complex carbohydrates. And there's a big movement towards regenerative medicine, self-healing. So food will be an important part of this self-healing, right? So we heal our systems to defend its cells better, or we push injured cells to commit suicide faster so that good cells rejuvenate. So this is an important part where food will be a very critical part, and we can have proper pharmaceutical design from biological sources. Waste remediation, indoor pollution management, because COPD, cardio-obstructive pulmonary disease, is the number 3 killer in Europe. Globally, it's the number 4 or so. Okay, so it's also a breakdown in pollution, but also complicated by diet we consume. Okay? So water purification, ecological management, restoration. So all of these are interconnected. And therefore, we are looking, and then diversification. In the US, very interesting is, in the last 4 years, we have gone from 10 million barrels per day, we are down to 8. So that means we import 2 million barrels less because of domestic. But one of the important domestic conversions that needs to happen is at least 10 to 15% of our energy coming from biomass, not corn, ethanol. That's good for driving the research, because it's all based on subsidy. It's okay for a few corn farmers, but eventually it has to come from cellulosic. And we have the prairie lands and the other lands for that part of the cellulosic ethanol systems. And therefore, as we look at these different biofuels, if we just get 10-15%, we can contribute to that. So if US can get 50% of its import, then it's good on the global platform as well in terms of these geopolitical and how we focus on the essential needs of the society. So this is a very important part that we need to look at within the food systems itself. And therefore, if you look at the entire, we need a more systems innovation, systems control point, and we have all these sub-platforms. So as we develop these platforms, education and technology becomes very important. We can't do this alone. We need to build partnerships at national, international level. And resource development management is absolutely necessary. In the end, it's the value chain. And this value chain is driven by the global economy. For example, Dylan and we were discussing this morning. Today, 72% of the US economy is driven by domestic consumption. This cannot go on. So in the next few years, we may grow at 2 to 3%. Europe may grow 1 to 2%. Japan is at stated, but they at this sort of a static level of less than 0.5. Then if you go and look at Brazil, they're growing 6 to 7. You go look at India, whose economy is 2 trillion today, but by 2020, it'll be 7 trillion by conservative estimates. So Indonesia, Turkey, of course China is already a $5 trillion economy. And so they are going to go more rapidly. So what's already happening, and this is very good in what the Obama administration did, and actually it started in Clinton years and followed very well with Bush years, and then Obama even pushed it further. Every year, 1% conversion has to happen from our domestic conversion to exports. The bobcats and the caterpillars and the pulses from North Dakota, they have to go into these new emerging markets. That's where the new growth is going to come. And therefore, as we look at the value chain and the innovation economy and economic development happens, you need inputs from abroad, and we need to train our own population to manage this, both in terms of the innovation as well as where they go. They have to go to work in India or Brazil. And so your new job will not be only here. You have to be prepared to go to any part of the world, because that's where the US growth is coming. It's already happening in General Electric, or even in this worst recession, General Motors collapsed here and had to have Uncle Sam bail it out with 25+ billion, but nothing happened to GM in India and China. They're growing very well, right? So this is the reality that we are living in. And so with this background, I gave you the larger worldview and then the life science platform. I'll spend the rest of my time on my vision for Global Institute of Food Systems. So this systems-based approach and interdisciplinary working will be brought across from the Institute, with food systems as the one driving point that encompasses the College of Agriculture, and across the different disciplinary, we have to break disciplinary boundaries across NDSU, including, for example, sensor technologies in life science. We can bring the electrical engineers, or there are systems designed for machinery, biosystems engineers. Katie Rennell could help us with understanding cellular responses. What do our ingredients do for different health outcomes? So we need to break these boundaries, and therefore my vision is based on the interconnected challenges. That means food security is not an isolated issue. It's connected to energy security, agriculture production systems, eco-sustainability, and all of this. But at the root of it, it's a very empathetic approach. We need to address global food security for everybody, for our own population, especially the health disparity for our underprivileged in this country. We have 50 million uninsured and all moving to chronic diseases. We need to address this for our own good, for our own selfish interest. Okay. So lack of proper availability of balanced nutritious food that leads to malnutrition, disease, and worsens cycle of poverty. Food security breakdown is a sure path to poverty. So we need to break that, and so this is a central driving force of the larger philosophy. And its consequences for public health, definitely, because we are 3 of us here, even though we are all well fed, I hope 1 in 4 here, who are going to die from chronic diseases. And energy security, environmental systems, all are important. So that's the heart of the bigger picture. Then how this will drive two critical, we are NDSU is an education institute, education should drive it. Second, entrepreneurship is very important. Without entrepreneurship, we can't find the resource structure to sustain all this. So these two are the two E's, founded on excellence in interdisciplinary research, bringing together of the communities and research, teaching, global and local outreach. We need to take this platform to our native communities, to the underprivileged in other parts if we can, because the diversity of crop system here is valuable to everybody. Right? So this is a very important, building the two E's. And further, how can NDSU, ND, US and globally to us, how can we advance sustainable development goals and improve quality of life for all with this deep sense of empathy and compassion? So that is really at the heart. I believe in this very strongly. And second, within the working environment, the institute I hope will develop, would work hard to develop a positive and exciting environment and community for creativity and collaborations. Creative energy, how can we happily create? And everything that we do has a very good purpose. Across college, agriculture college, NDSU, based on diverse global engagement. So with the help of this global engagement, how can we be more creative, more collaborative? Okay. So that's the core of some of my principles, but how do we then have strategies to implement it? Okay. So number one strategy is I hope to get, the institute is not a department. We want to engage the department in a complementary relationships, about 40 to 50 core faculty interested in international engagement, and bring them together on a voluntary basis to enhance their research teaching. So I am a facilitator of trying to build excellence, or however way this can help already the existing individual goals that is defined by the department. So it's not, if the department had asked me, can you help me improve this curriculum, I will give my input based on the faculty need, but I am a facilitator of trying to build this through and enhance this. So that's a very important point. So GIF Global Institute will be very open-minded, flexible, inspired by challenges that has larger purpose, and positive experience for faculty. I am a positive person. I don't like to grumble. We just got to get on with life and try to do the best we can in the time we have here, and have an effective collaboration, bring together multiple fields, interdisciplinary, be open, be flexible. So this is very, very important. We'll be positive and it'll be win-win. It has to be win-win. There's no other way about it. Everybody has to gain if they come to a collaborative purpose. So there's a common purpose. So that's really first critical point. Second, at an implementation level, I want to develop strategies for foundation and federal grants. So their individual departments may be boxed in a certain structure. So for example, if you have to go after NIH grants or USAID grants or Department of Energy grants, we could pull this larger vision of shaping it and bring all the pieces together. So I could be a facilitator of that in many of these strategic areas. So foundation and federal grants, for example, Gates Foundation. You need both plant scientists and economists, and even the USAID proposal, concept paper we put together, we came from different disciplines where I'm a part of the collaborating team from NDSU. And therefore, it will be interdisciplinary and systems-based research, so that's what's going to pull it together and bring the different disciplines together. And I love teaching, and even here I will at least teach my large class. I teach a large world food global education course at UMass for 250 students. Initially they said one semester, but then now I'm forced to teach 2 semesters because of the enrollment. So there are 500 students. So I want to continue to do that because I think students and me are getting addicted to it, and it sort of inspires students to come into majors and understand this field. So I want to continue to teach because it's something that I enjoy much. So it adds to my my day-to-day life, and so that's what me. Second, mentoring young faculty, because they are the core of where the NDUSU has to go. We need wisdom of the elder faculty, but we need the energy of the young. So we need to nurture them with a lot of empathy. So that's very important. In collaboration with the departments, I hope to nurture that as well. And then on a third level, I've developed a lot of industry contacts, and food industry by nature, we work with industry. So I want to develop strategic research and education partnership with industry. We already have a good model in UMass. We have the industry pay us, depends on the size of the company, between 5,000 to 10,000 for a membership. And then we have 1 or 2 get-togethers every year. And we use this core support of about $200,000 a year for seed money and grants, for grants match or equipment match. So I want to try and bring all the industry network in food industry to build a strategic research partnership. And all they are promised is we'll give you an early window to write grants with us. And then we can have contracts, but then it goes through the regular US NDSU system. That's how it's done. So if some company is interested, then they write the grant and go through whatever the policies of the university is. So it goes. So I'm only we bring this together. So this is an important part. It's very successful in UMass. It's in its 19th year. Ever since I came to UMass, it's still working, and it's been amazing how that has protected us from all the university cuts. So we consider the university cuts meaningless because this part of money is pretty substantial compared to the golf money that goes 5,000 or 6,000 that gets cut off here and there. Right? But UMass is good. Still, I'm sure it's no different here. So third is, this is very important. Another reason why very important is we need endowment. Wherever we can leverage endowment strategy with industry or individual, that's good. So that pool of money, say $1 million or $2 million. So the annual returns of that could be a good seed money in addition to the industry fee money. So that again goes to seed support, graduate student support, like leveraging. It's not like it can't feed everything of a faculty, but it gives, suddenly they run short for 3 months of salary, then there is something here. So this leveraging could be a good part of this. So I'm currently working on this model for my own, at UMass, trying to work on this Global Food Security Initiative endowment through my friends network. And so this I'm hoping to drive some of the food diversity centers I'm building around the world. And that seed support, I'm sort of trying to help some faculty who were excited about this. So it gives them 10,000 or 5,000 here and there. So number 5, we have a very exciting strategy of offering, all the students from abroad cannot come here. So as these new economies grow, can we partner with them to have dual degrees and offer NDSU master's program there in those countries? So how do we do that? So we have some ideas about advancing research collaboration as well as offering these master's program. But of course, if some of these master's students are very smart, then they could be brought to NDSU for PhD. And we have to find a mechanism. I have some ideas of how the revenue flow from the master's programs can support that. Okay. So this is very important. And this idea we had put together when my friend Tony Pometto is still the head of the department in Clemson, and our own dean, our provost here, NDSU Provost Erfurt, was the dean there. So he helped to pull this together, but it hit the wall with the provost. So it didn't move forward, but I think now in UMass there's a movement forward on how this could be implemented in India. And then we have the similar model in the NDSU proposal for the Silk Route, but funded by USAID. So this is possible. And then in all of this, very important, we need diversity of cultures, just like the US immigration policy. US immigration focuses on diversity. No single country has more than 20,000 visas. So that's the foundation of it. So this is also very much must be reflected in how we look at things. So I've tried to follow that in my own program. So if you look at my publications, you can see about 25 nationalities over the years. And so I've also, I could be tempted to just get everybody from India. I've had good Indian students or good Chinese students or good everybody else. but you need good American students. And so you need a wide variety. And so this is very much a part, diversity is a critical part that has shaped United States, especially post-60s, post-civil rights era. That's when the immigration was widened to diversity. And so that's very much part of how we need to move forward. And it is reflected in the USAID and US State Department policies as well. Okay. So it's and then the next, we have to leverage, I would love to leverage my network, especially the 50-country network that I have around the world, into getting students from other parts of the world into our programs. So how do we do this? I have some ideas. And so that is very important. And Evie's already doing that. So how I can work with her to advance this further. So I have some good ideas and network on how we can be strategic about this. So and leverage this mission to add value to ND agriculture, especially pulses. Pulses is going to be key to solving global diabetes problem, particularly in a vegetarian country, in a youth inclined population like India and South Asia in general. So they just don't need soybean, they need diversity of pulses. So how can we advance that both in leverage, connections, science, and many other ways? So we need to, how can that advance ND economic development? We can, the faculty linked to GIFS can help that. Then it can leverage research technology, spin-offs. I just had a good conversation with Phil, right? And of course, all the earmarks have run out. And so they need to look at new strategies. And they built an amazing combinatorial chemistry platform. So a functional profile perfectly fits that. So what are they going to do with all those facilities? So I think we can look at profiles and combinatorial strategies from plants, ingredients for diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and these. So we could develop a more ag-linked health direction. And then there are others, for example, specialty berries could be another area that we can build. And so I work with the third biggest tissue culture berry producer in this country called Nurse Farms. Actually, my wife is the mother plant index maker for their company. But that's another area. Our choke berries could be developed, or many other berries. More berries grow in harsh environments, and how that's translated into health benefits. And there are a few other ideas for spin-offs. So that could be an element of revenue stream as well as how, depends on how we partner this. And more important, how we train our students, opportunities for NDSU students in international research and international experience and for career advancement. We have to provide incentive, tell them if you get this 10 credit certificate in international language or international development, this is going to help your career in this way. So we have to better articulate that. And it's essential, very much essential. So in addition to their basic degree, can we quantify some sort of an international experience for these students in reality as well, and including going abroad for some period of time, so that they are more valuable to Bobcat or anyone else. I like the word Bobcat, so I use it often. So honor certificate, and so we can look at that. And third, we can form a core expertise. Our faculty can be expert. We do that very well at UMass. We consult with many companies with their very basic issues. So we are not a commodity state, a little tiny state. So we have to be smart about how we. So we have these very exciting links with companies, and so can we offer international links and expertise pool of faculty for collaboration for ND agriculture. So these are some ideas, and individually I can discuss this further. And therefore, also how we strategize should be very strategic. We can't just go to every country. First of all, we need to align it with US national interests and what is shaped. We can't deviate too much, but we can have our own individual. It's an individual liberty country, so we have our own direction. But at the same time, in order to have success revenue stream and manage this properly, we need some critical areas. Latin America is very good. We can leverage a lot with the State Department goals, because it's a very important strategic area, being the Americas, building Americas as a platform. Second, Silk Route. It's very nice for us. These countries are similar to North Dakota in many respects. So some of the prairie agriculture is just perfect for them. So we have a USAID concept paper on this, and so very, very important. And our personal bonds and NDSU diaspora faculty can help. India and China, I mean, we already get them naturally, but we can better strategize with individual relationship. These huge new, in the old world was the two great economies who are going to come back, already are coming back. So we got to engage them well, and we have good diaspora faculty through which we can engage them. Monsoon region, this is the region, you're going to hear this. This was the region that was why Vasco da Gama came, and this is the region that has the energy grids and the youth demographics. So hear about this. You should read a book called Monsoon by Robert Kaplan. It's a brilliant book, and he'll tell you why this monsoon region is the next. So we had the Pacific Atlantic growth, and then we had short time, we still have the Pacific development happening. But the next big wave that's going to hit the world is the old monsoon route, because for many reasons. It's already happening, and it's already a strategy within the US government circles as well. Africa-linked diaspora, very important, especially in Obama's November visit to India. We now have a US-India Initiative for Africa, because India has a long experience in positive interaction with Africa, in terms of teachers going to Africa, our traders going and living there, and they don't live in, they lived with the community in Africa. And therefore, this experience, as everybody's rushing to Africa now, because 25% of the arable land is in Africa, and the youth demographic is high, it's the new promised land. But Africans also scared because they've had enough of thrashing in the past. So China, everybody's coming. So we have to go with a lot of sensitiveness to build from within their society. So Obama realized this, and in November, that was the main initiative they signed with the Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh. How does India and US get together for African initiative? So which is an exciting program, which is very good. Of course, ASEAN region, Japan, these are also very good. I have personally, I'm looking at food. Where in the world are people living long and having this very diverse diet? Okinawa, they live very long and very happy people. So I visit there often and look at different islands, because every culture has built something unique in order to solve their problem, right? So that's a very exciting. So I've already, whether in the end I come here or not, I've already, that's another issue, but I've already loved some of the things that I've been engaged here with USDA. We just put a USDA concept paper for the new RFP on advancing education and innovation for agri-food security and sustainable development. We are 6 of us, 5 here and then me. And we are going to look at the Mongolian food security as well as few other Silk Road related sustainable development projects. Then of course, the great Tawa team, Tawa Raja teams, and we are looking not only at USAID and NSF, and so pulses, I think what they're doing is amazing, and I think this pulse complexes, both in its mineral improvement for health as well as other bioactives, it can become a world-class program with right mentoring. So we need to guide these new faculty towards big goals. And I think here is the pulse health benefits has a big opportunity where your NDSU can become a world leader because of the diversity of the pulses and legumes that you grow, more than other states. And therefore, then I already have links. My own students are faculty elsewhere. So I just have a Fulbright collaboration in Chile that I'm developing master's program and doctoral sandwich programs as well. And one of the foundations of that program is addressing child and maternal health food security issues, which are very big among the poor in Chile. They grow, very interesting, they are growing obese and still have malnutrition problems. So and they end up with diabetes faster than others. So, and you can see this in India. Those who had malnourishment in the 60s are getting diabetes quicker. We can see it in the African American population in the US. those who had malnourishment in the 60s and earlier are moving into diabetes faster. You can see it among Native American population here, who have 4 times higher diabetes and cardiovascular risk than average population. So we need to look, there are similar challenges globally. And of course, Latin America is a big problem, particularly targeted in these huge countries. Brazil with a population of 200 million, Mexico about 120 million. They already have strategic relationship with us. And in each of these places, can we develop a network of advisory council of local experts and scientists and former students to help us in trying to recruit or build these partnerships. And then once in a way bring them up to NDSU in the summer, a nice barbecue, or in the winter too is okay, ice fishing, maybe, or cross-country skiing when the wind is not hard. And then in India, my own roots in Bangalore, we are developing a new Global Institute for Food Systems Biology, where we are trying to get 10,000 master's level food technology, food system biology, food business management in the next 10 years. This was the project in Clemson that we are trying to put together with Tony Permetto and Bruce Rafford when he was the dean there. But there are issues that I won't go into, but each university has its own aspects. But finally, we are pulling this together. 5% of this pool the revenue pool will help to bring doctoral students here. Okay, so it's self-perpetuating and paying for it. And this model, we have already put that into our Silk Route project and the USAID project, which is a concept paper now that was just submitted on, actually today is the 22nd. Yeah, today is the deadline. And so the potential within GIFs or the other opportunities are huge. So we need to look at strategically. And for example, I told you this US-India collaboration with the Obama visit in November is a very good area where we can really work together for how to help the emergence of Africa in a more balanced and dignified way, not just grab resources and run. And Africa is the next youth, arable land, all this are coming together well, just like what's happening in Asia. So it's the new promised land. It was always the promised land, but now things are coming together. And my own research, so if I don't do anything, all these other big, these are my new areas where I'm working. We have to get combinatorial strategies to overcome antibiotic resistant issues. And plant gives us good clues how 2-3 compounds can come together, can be more potent than high levels of one compound. They do that all the time. So we need new approaches for antibiotic replacement. Post-harvest and fermentation biology is the basis of new designs for fermented foods, functional foods or health foods. Regenerative medicine, wound healing, social enterprise, especially urban. 43% of the world is going to live in urban environments. So we need new growing systems, vertical growing, hydroponic growing, any number of different ways to grow. And then global food, we do need to understand the diversity of global food system, because each country developed, each region, each culture developed it for their sustainable thing. So they couldn't be wrong. So how can you bring a modern rationale to what Okinawans had, what our Native Americans had that was lost? Right now in this new epidemic of diabetes, can we have better ways to bring back those old systems, right? So that's very important. And therefore my pet one is cognition. Ultimately it's the gut mind speaking that's critical. So I have a small project that I've initiated in India on what are these foods important for the mind, right? So it's more of a esoteric fun project to keep thinking moving forward. But these first 5 are, or you can say up to 6 are very practical, pragmatic oriented that will come, will be part of my research here. And in the end, this for the research park, we have a Redox Biology platform from plant growth to science-based design, optical manufacturing, and proven effectiveness. We want to put this discovery engine as a basis for new spin-offs or partnering with companies. And therefore, this is my last slide, education and entrepreneurship drives the a whole ecological-based life sciences, where we have to integrate molecular sciences and ecological sciences in the same platform. And this is what's going to drive GIFS. And we need a R&D link innovation closely coupled to education to drive entrepreneurship. We need to make entrepreneurs. We have to keep the entrepreneurial foundation of the US that's made it what it is. So we need diverse global partnership, because it's a whole new paradigm now where we have many more players. So we have to work within that. So US land grant universities absolutely will be necessary as long as we're dealing with resources and plant systems. And this vision will help ND agriculture and ND exports and ND economic development for sure, as we look at the larger practical endpoints of needs of ND agriculture. So that's really, in a nutshell, my vision based on the larger intellectual perspectives to where life science is heading. And from that, I have distilled down what is the larger vision for the Global Institute for Food Science, and how some ideas that we can practically implement this. So with that, I'll stop, and I'll be very happy to take any questions.
Questions from the audience?
Yes, sir.
Where would you plan to have 5,000 PhD students
Where here?
at NDSU?
No, we are not planning that 5,000 for NDSU. We are
500.
Which one?
500 was the number you used.
No, that's over the period of the whole program.
What time frame?
It's over a year. You may get 10 or 15 a year. So it's whatever, maybe NDSU can't do it all. So essentially in the current UMass model, we are trying to build a consortium of 20 US universities to address this PhD issue. Because all the expertise may not be found here. To the extent expertise can be found, it'll be here. So we delivered the 10,000 masters that we need, which is 1,000 per year. And there are logistic and other issues. So what NDSU will do is give the curriculum and training, and there has to be a lot of local training. And then part of that student will come here, and to the extent we can absorb them. If not, we'll have to have a consortium of universities that we have to work with. Did I answer your question?
Well, it seemed misleading to me when you're saying 500 doctoral students without a time frame on it.
No. See, I put the time frame of that was the India project, right?
Well, it was
Yeah.
back or whatever.
Right. It was the 500 is part of the India project. It's about how do we get 5% of the students coming for doctoral program, but it's over a period of time. So it's not misleading in that period of time. So if you look at India, we are looking at 10,000 over 10 years. So 500 of that. Right, what is that?
Well, it sounds like about 50. So
Right.
where are you going to house 50?
I don't know. I don't know about the housing. In UMass, we could house it.
No, not housing.
Not housing.
Facilities.
Where are you going to put them in the university?
Oh,
What?
through this different faculty who can have them. It need not be all in food systems. It can be in plant science. It can be in resource economics. It can be your different disciplines in agriculture. It's not only for only food systems.
Let's switch gears on you a little bit.
Right.
I wonder if you could, you talked about adding value to North Dakota ag economy. I wonder if you could expand on that. I mean, what are your plans or thoughts in that area?
We are facing this chronic disease epidemics, right? So just in the diabetes platform, let's say flaxseed. So there are a lot of lignans and a lot of bioactives with it.
Flax breeder.
Yeah, I'm a
Okay.
flexible.
Oh, okay. Great.
You're going to give me money?
Yeah. We'll talk about that. So there are a lot of lignans and a lot of these bioactives that are there that may be preferentially in certain varieties or in how this flax product will go into different products. So we can enrich these bioactives for these disease targets. So we have to look at flax improvement based on where the disease endpoints are and where these flax products will be going into the end product.
Did we have a Flax Institute meeting, international meeting on every 2 years?
Next week.
Next week, and it's next week.
Okay.
So I thought these kind of topics discussed with the Flax.
It's in a general way.
Right.
Frank and Philip will address that.
But we can look at enrichment of specific bioactives within the chronic disease platform. If we can't take students, we will, I think you have to build a larger consortium where they can go.
So you got
That's-
flax and you got legumes.
Right.
What other, or pulses?
Pulses, right?
So what other ideas do you have in expanding the ag economy?
In every crop that you have, I think the enrichment for bioactives for these chronic diseases can be pursued. For example, in the beet, the iron enrichment and the beverage, in the beverage especially, there's a new design in beverage where you have endurance factors. The iron has relevance to endurance. So it could be a base for a lot of beverages, especially for endurance. And so that's another angle. And then you take wheat, or even there you can look at all these chronic diseases, particularly diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So a lot of the microvascular complications of diabetes, sugar uptake, or the blood pressure, we can find these bioactives in a lot of common grains. And
So what kind of infrastructure and financial needs are needed up front to support this kind of work?
first of all,